Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa. Today, we have artist and owner of the Upper Dekker, Jeff Dekker. We will discuss rediscovering one's childhood, turning a silly hobby into a side hustle, and being your biggest cheerleader. Jeff has been a phenomenal supporter of the podcast, and his artwork is just really funny, and there's a lot of meaning to it, and there's just amazing stories in his life. I can't wait for all of you guys to hear this episode. Everyone, welcome. Well, yeah, welcome to the Long Term Podcast.
Oh, you're actually recording?
Yeah, this is it. We're all warmed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Jeff Dekker. Everyone?
Jeff Dekker. That's right.
Owner of the Upper Dekker.
The Upper Dekker. I go by the Upper Dekker because there was a point when artists were, you just, the name just was kind of boring. And it seemed like there were people who were pushing like brand yourself. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't think of anything. And then one day, like a few years into selling artwork, this lovely couple who I just saw last weekend at the Art Walk, they came into the booth and said, hey, have you ever considered calling yourself the Upper Dekker? And
what was your name before that?
Just Jeffrey Dekker.
Okay.
But the Upper Dekker is because I do mostly bathroom art. So the Upper Dekker is when you poop in the top of a toilet tank. It's a joke that people like a prank that people play on each other. Yeah. And it worked because I don't know. I'm not ashamed of it, but the name Dekker and the Upper Dekker, I mean, so I name it the Upper Dekker.
It's got to get a ring to it.
Does it have a nice ring?
It does. The Upper Dekker. It sticks. It sticks.
And I think a lot of people know what an Upper Dekker is, so they kind of laugh at that, and they kind of disarms them a bit. They come into the booth and realize that it is actual bathroom art. But
out of all the art styles,
yes,
why did you choose bathroom art? And can you explain for those individuals that do not know what bathroom art is?
Well, I don't know if bathroom art. I just say it's bathroom art, but it was. I had a blog. Like we're starting off in a different. I had a blog for a long time, and I was an animator. And you would get some time to doodle at your desk while you're waiting for animation to render. And so I do quick little daily drawings. And one day, when I was looking for ideas to draw, I did this little floater, which is like a poop wearing a life jacket. And it made people laugh. It made me laugh. And when I started drawing prints and needed something, I came up with you're trying to sell art. Like when if I try to think of stuff to draw, it's difficult because it's like, if I'm trying to think of what people want, it's hard. But if I think of what I like, it's silly. Usually that does well. But anyways, I came up with the idea that if cartoons aren't going to be in people's living rooms or in their bedroom or in their kitchen, maybe I can do something silly for the bathroom. And so I did a pair of a poop boy and a toilet paper girl holding hands and running together, and they'd just been married. And as soon as I put it out there, like people at a convention came by and they said like, oh my, there's bathroom art. It'd be perfect for the bathroom. And I heard that probably 100 times in one day. And the next show, like when the next show, it was another convention, maybe a few months later, people saw me and said, hey, the poo guy's back. And I thought, wow, like I'm trying to stand out as an artist. And suddenly these people remember me. And I thought, you know what, I'll do it. I'll draw. I'll add another one the next show. And then when the Upper Dekker came along, I thought, well, okay, I'll mesh these two ideas together and we'll do it.
That's phenomenal.
And I don't think it pigeonholes me, but it's definitely made me memorable at certain shows. And it does just kind of come out of me. It does, like, I don't know. It's weird. And
when you think of arts, you don't typically think of poo, right? You don't think of that bathroom style. But then when you see that, it's so it's really out there.
If you ever, like, you've heard the phrase, like, you know, there's a book, like, everybody poops or something like that. It's a class, like, everybody does poop, but I don't know. It's just funny to be at a show. Like, I've been at shows where people are selling everything. And then I just kind of stand out because it's bathroom art. And for some reason, like, people will show me while I'm setting up, people will be like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing here? And I'll be like, listen, just trust me. It'll work. And then all of a sudden I have a lineup of people. And then the other people that were, you know, crapping on the crap were like, oh my God, he's turning, you know, this is incredible. So it works. I mean, I think I mentioned that my mom and dad, like, my dad's okay with it. My mom just thinks it's weird. It doesn't make sense. And she almost thinks that it's like, I'm like a snake oil salesman or something, where I'm just kind of selling people something that they don't need.
It's like one of those, you're not going to a show expecting to find that type of art, but when you do come across it, it's eye-catching and it's novel and it's something that you just want to put up in your washroom. And I feel like that's why people gravitate towards that, because it's just funny. And then when you go to the washroom, you see your type of art. And for those of you that haven't seen the Upper Dekker's work or Jeff's work, they're funny. They're great pieces of art, and it's just eye-catching. And when you go to the washroom, you just look at that, you kind of chuckle a little bit. And when you can just add a little bit of joy into someone's day by a piece of art, by your work, that's fulfilling. And I'm sure that's why you keep coming back to it. Hey,
well, and I did not think that was going to happen. Like, when I started selling art, I didn't. That was the goal. Wasn't to just make people laugh. It just suddenly happened. I mean, I could have easily probably picked landscapes, but I would still have to make them funny, like funny landscapes. But the bathroom art it's like, because I don't have a fine art like background. I only had a couple of years of animation training. So I feel like I worked with other real artists, and I feel like, you know, I kind of just.
Well, let's retract. You are a real artist.
I know. But when you work in a studio with concept artists, like they're just incredible. I feel like I'm kind of getting away. Like, I do kind of feel like what's that imposter syndrome sometimes, because I know, like, I've got a body of work. I'm gonna put it out there at a show, and even when I'm setting up, I know that I've done the show before. I know I can usually gauge how much I'm going to make from the show, but while I'm setting up and they're about to let people in, inside I feel like, Jeff, pack it up. We can. I'm like looking at my clock, thinking I could tear this place down and be in the car, and I can be out of here, and then I won't have to do this, because I just feel like it's like I don't have much confidence, even though it does do well, but it's. I think as soon as I make that first sale, though, like that, you know, they'll open the doors, I make a sale, and then all of a sudden that weight just kind of disappears, and you're like, okay, we can do this. This is.
I feel that even with podcasts, when I'm reaching out to people, and I get rejected many times. For as many people that come on, probably more say no. And that's just the reality of it. Yeah.
I'm here just to hang out with you.
Yeah. But it's that kind of that voice in our heads, right? That go, oh, you're not worthy, you're not this, but then you realize, oh, we're too harsh on ourselves. And I feel like that's so many people today. And that's when we create something, when you create your artwork, people can judge by not buying it, right? And you expect that when you're presenting, when you're at the art walk in downtown. How was that, by the way?
Pardon?
How was it?
It was incredible. Like I sold quite a few originals, which is something I don't see what, I don't know. I mean, this sounds silly now, but like that I did a large, like 2 foot by 2 foot painting of a stool bus. So it's like a school bus flying off a cliff, and it's just filled with like poo kids hanging out of the thing. And people paid like $500 for it. And you just wonder, like,
that's incredible.
What? I want to talk them out of it. Like, you're just kind of like, listen, you don't want this. Like, I'll make a print and you can have the print. And then the other one I sold was an old elderly vagina in a wheelchair. And it just seemed like when the gentleman, like, he's with his family, and when he was like, I want to buy that. And you're like, what? Listen, you don't want to buy this.
I think it's just that humor.
It's strange. I don't understand it. Like, it makes me laugh when I draw it, and I chuckle at it when I paint it. I think I love hearing people laugh when they see it, but when someone buys it, you're just like, I don't. I mean, I want the money, but then I just think, dude, I hope you're
making the right decision.
Yeah, this is not. But anyways, no,
But yeah, we got to retract and say this all started from somewhere, and from talking to you, you've always been passionate about art, and let's talk about rediscovering your childhood. So, what was your childhood like, and how did your early experiences shape who you are today?
I was a shy kid. My parents put me in sports to kind of get me out there, because I didn't do well in school, but I always enjoyed drawing. And I guess, I started in junior high. I started to notice that I was getting better at drawing. And I think all my other subjects, I don't think I was failing, but I noticed that other kids were excelling at everything, and I just couldn't keep up. And drawing was just something that I think I would just, when I would be doing homework or I'd be in class, I would just be doodling in class. And it was just this incredible, if a teacher allowed me to put my head down and just draw, all of a sudden the buzzer would go off, and you'd be like, oh my God. They're like, whoa, what did I miss? And then I had this, I'd have a drawing in front of me, mostly caricatures of teachers, which made kids laugh. Like, that was something where I think early on I realized that, oh my gosh, like I just drew a picture of Mr. Durek, and now the kids in the physics class think it's hilarious.
There seems to be a pattern. I mean, humor.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
humor through your art. That's how you express yourself. Hey?
Yeah, it's probably. And I didn't think I didn't think I was a funny kid growing up, but the humor through the art. But then I in junior high, I noticed that I was getting better at drawing. My parents, probably. My parents are like my mom's side are all teachers, so I think she knew of the school, this other high school that had a good art program, and my aunt knew the art teacher, and so they got me into the school, and that would really set me on a path that, I mean, I know of lots of people that draw, and they just kind of stopped to pursue something else. I was kind of pushed in that direction, and I should have got a real job, but it was fun to be able to pursue it. Yeah, I don't know.
I always think about the choices that we make and the support that is propagated by those that love us and that support us.
Yeah.
And if your parents didn't support you in that enjoyments that you had with art, that passion, your entire life would be entirely different right now, eh?
It would.
Like if you didn't go to that school, if they said, hey, like they tried to steer you away from art, because I know a lot of people with their parents are like the, hey, be an engineer, be a doctor, be insert typical job, safe path. And what ends up happening is, sure, maybe a percentage of those people enjoy it, but there's a massive percentage too where they pursue that, and maybe they're good at it, but they're not passionate about it. Right?
Yeah, that's
What do you think would have happened if they said, "Hey, no drawing for you, no coloring. That's not it. Go with a more trustworthy job." You know what I mean?
I don't know, because I don't think you can ever. I don't think you can ever stop. I don't think would ever stop drawing. I mean, technically I did stop, because when I was in high school and I got a scholarship to go to an animation school, that was hand-drawn animation. Mm-hmm. But if I had gone, when I went back for the full year of school, it was I studied classical, but then the industry was changing and it was all computer generated. So you didn't really have to draw anymore. So I think if I had missed the hand-drawn stuff and gone straight to computers, I probably wouldn't be drawing at all anyways, because it's all in the computer. But if I had never gone down this path, I would probably have tried to get a job with my father. He's a chemical engineer. And I think I see that he was able to provide. I think they get a decent wage, and you think, and you know what the funny thing is I could probably be drawing at work and I would still find a way. You can't stop me. You can't.
That's
I mean,
fair.
it would, I think even if I don't think if I ever lost my arms,
You find a way.
I would find a way. I mean, I love seeing people that overcome those kind of, like, artists that are painting with their feet. And you think, I don't know if I could.
see that. And
It's
we
amazing.
revere those people that get such an awful sentence laid upon them, and they still try to find a way to pursue their passions.
Yeah.
And we ask ourselves all the time when we see that, am I brave enough? Am I courageous
Yep.
enough to be able to go through such a horrendous time and be able to be triumphant still?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And I still, this is off topic, but I get upset sometimes when I see athletes in the Paralympics, and I always think, like, why aren't they competing at the same time? We should be watching those incredible incredible athletes at the same time as the other athletes. I don't know why it's like this week or two later, and you feel like, come on, they worked even harder to get to where they are because they're, but that's
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of the athletes, the effort is something that we really revere too. Because we all know what it's like to suffer, the pain. And when we see a person in a wheelchair and they practice their dribbling and they're really good at the wheelchair and they can do a wheelie and just compete at that high of caliber with other people that are going through the same thing, we're inspired. I don't know what, I love that part about humanity. Hey,
no,
it's so beautiful.
You don't see it sometimes, and sometimes I don't see it that often. And I'm like, I think having a young kid, you hope, like, oh, please, like, I hope the world keeps getting better. But
yeah, and I'd say, you hear a lot of bad stuff here and there, and but there's also a lot of good. But it's just the bad is just so much more powerful,
and it fills up an Instagram feed,
and
like,
it sells.
Oh my gosh, it sells.
Yeah. Can you share a specific childhood memory that you feel had a significant impact on your journey as an artist?
Well, that would be the art teacher I had in high school saw something in me, and I think he could probably see that this was a class that I could miss every class and then go to his class. Like I would want to stay there all day.
Did you skip all classes and then just go to his?
No, gosh. You know why? Because at that time, your parents would get phone calls, and
they still do. They still do. A lot of Gen Z kids are just a lot less tame.
So I still went, and he was able to get me a scholarship, which changed. So that at the time, I think that the cost of that school for the summer was expensive. My parents would have paid it, but it did help. And I think they were excited that I was going to pursue a career as an animation career seemed like an actual job. The artist seemed like I was going to be like, I don't know. It just, that terrifies my mom to this day. But the animation seemed like a good job. And I think the idea that I could work for something like The Simpsons or Disney or Warner Brothers, that was kind of like, oh my God.
You still could. You really still could.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's never too late.
But so that teacher pushed me, and I saved up the original tuition was $17,000 for the first year.
Wow.
And then the second year was 17. So I came out with I saved up enough to pay for both. I still had a bit of a student debt, but it was, that was a good idea.
You found a way. I could clearly tell that you're very passionate about it and you're willing to go to the moon for it.
I think that taste of it in the summer course that I had, there was like a month. I had to go to Vancouver at 16 all by myself, go every day to school, and I'd explore the city afterwards. But I think just that being around those people, those creative people, I was kind of excited. Like, and then of course, with that hand drawn animation, you're drawing like hundreds of pictures, and then you capture them, and then you see them move. And when you see those drawings move, it's like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
Because you envision something, and then when you actually bring it to life, it's just a phenomenal feeling. Hey, can you describe that feeling? What's that like for you?
A white piece of paper is like the scariest thing in the world. But when you start it's different. Before it was, I think some of like, I can think of like when you see it, like I've done it, I've had projects where you see it come to life, and it's just, I don't know. It's magical. It's just, I know when we had animation history, you watched how this incredible art form started, and there were people in a theater watching a hand-drawn dinosaur like on the screen, and people actually thought that dinosaurs were real. Like it was, and then you had, shows like Snow White that came out that people were absolutely blown away by. So, I mean, it's an incredible art form, but as an art form, I think it was hard to, you could find, there was less, they didn't have as many jobs. Like, there were, the industry has these ups and downs, and I was still willing to after I finished school, my first job, I went to India for like half a year because I was told, like, when you finish school, take the first job. And so I went to India and worked on a video game, and then came back, and you're constantly hustling. Like, and then I reached a point where I discovered that drawing again was another way that I could get some money, because you're still trying to make a living, and you're hired and you're laid off. And I think that part of the job just started to scare me a bit. But
how do you deal with the uncertainty? Because from hearing your story, it's just been a lot of ebbs and flows. Hey, there's just days where it's just like really you're thriving, and then there's days where it's just like deep troughs. How do you, like, are you just used to it now?
I think that was the one part. Like, you talked about the magical, like when I would describe the animation as being magical, when you're on a project that's magical and you see it and everyone's like, you watch it on TV, or the video game comes out and you play it and you're like, oh my God, we did this. This is incredible. But I mean, I still, those, I think when I was starting a family, I did think about like, okay, wait a second, like this, if I'm really going to pursue this, I have to, like, my wife's going to have to understand that there's going to be some moving around. Like, we'll probably, because we went to Vancouver and Calgary and back quite a few times because of jobs. And then all of a sudden you go to work one day and a company, like most jobs, like now there's that point where it's like, hey, that part of the job's done. You guys are laid off. And you think like, hey, wait a second. I just came in for like, just did like ridiculous amount of overtime to get this project done, but then your part is done, so they can just kind of, let you go. And I think that was hard. Like and then other projects, I just, your heart wasn't in it, but you're still going because you're a worker. You want to get paid. You want to, do your part. But I think the nice thing is that I can still do that work at home. Like, so if I didn't get that feeling, that good feeling at work from the art or animation, I can come home and get that from my own stuff, which is kind of nice. It's, I guess that's how I find that balance with that ups and downs.
How has revisiting your childhood influenced your art and creativity?
I've got a 10-year-old boy who keeps me interested in, like, you have your brother, if he's 6 years old, they're into, like, you want to show them stuff. You want to show them all the good stuff that you love. And so I've revisited stuff like telescopes and, video games and movies and my favorite comic books or things that I may have forgot about because I grew up, and you're kind of like putting things away because you're like, I haven't got time to do this, or but then when you have like a son, it's just like, it could be a daughter too. But I mean, like you have children and you suddenly get to see them at an age, and all of a sudden you feel like when they're 6, I feel 6. Like when they're 7, you feel 7 again.
I could be having the toughest day.
Yeah.
But then when I conversate with my brother, when I see how he goes about the world, he's 6. It's so simple.
I know.
Like he just, he reacts to bad stimuli and he reacts to good stimuli in the way that you'd expect it to. You don't ever have to kind of question his motives.
Yeah.
Like whether, okay, was he hurt by the thing that I said last week? Was he, okay, why is he doing this? Why is he watching that? It's just simple. Oh, he said that poop joke because it's funny. And he reminds me that life shouldn't be that serious. And it gives me hope that, oh, maybe I am too deep in my thoughts, that I am too harsh on myself.
Yeah.
And when I see him make fart jokes or he's just running around, like he'll be on one topic, we'll be talking about Roblox.
Yeah.
And then we'll
Roblox.
just start talking about like the kid from school and how funny that is. And then boom, what is that? And then it's also simple. And I think that's the beauty. I really love my brother, and like it's just it's tough to see him grow, because then it's like, what about when he's in a full adult? Then it's just like, who's gonna be like that in my life?
I think, and I notice nieces and nephews that there's that point where they become a little more serious, and I think I'm lucky to be able to revisit that, this childhood with my son, even though I've never really fully grown up. I think the style of art that I have and the humor I have, it's probably messing with him, because he's probably going to meet serious adults when he gets old. Like, you'll meet someone else's parents and be like, oh my gosh, my dad is a weirdo. But I think I'm okay with that. I mean, I think
he's going to say my dad followed his passions. And maybe there's going to be a phase where he's going to be a little bit embarrassed, because every single kid goes through that. Yeah. But then of course you come to find out that, hey, my dad had good values. My dad was there to support me. And that's I feel that's every single teenager.
Well, and I think he's seeing the entrepreneur side, where it's like I'm selling something. Like he'll see me You'll see me go through, like, even right now with like online sales. Like he noticed, he sees I'm working to like package up orders, and I'm answering emails, like, looking after customers, and we'll go to shows and he'll come and visit, and he'll want to look after, like, he's old enough now where I could probably like leave him at the booth and say, hey, just you look after this. And observing. I know that's coming up. And I think I think that's great. I think it's great. I didn't get that as a kid. My parents didn't have their own business. So I feel like that's a little taste of something that I can give him.
I think he also sees the way you interact with people, because the way I've interacted with you many, many times at work now, and you're always so curious. It's so consistent each time, and people feel heard. Like when I was just talking to a coworker of ours, and they had the same opinion of, wow, Jeff is the type of guy that just makes me feel heard, makes me feel human. Well, and I feel that your son probably sees that, and that's probably why your art sells too. Because when you talk to people, there seems to be that connection is established. And were you always like that?
I guess I'm kind of a people watcher, and animation is also, like, when you study animation, you are kind of studying human beings. Like, you're studying humans. Like, if you're working on scenes, or you're trying to get inside that person's head. So I guess I do watch people a lot, but I mean, I guess I am curious about.
Yeah. I know. I appreciate it so much. Even with this podcast, you've you don't know how many times I've just been really doubting myself. Like, I don't know if I'm good enough. And then I get back from my break, going back to work, and I see you sitting there, and you're like, hey, I listened to that. And I'm like, really, you took the time to listen to all of that. It's just, it means a lot to me, Jeff.
Well, that's
it's amazing.
really nice. I mean, and I get the same. If someone leaves a review for me, that's just like, wow, you had to take time to actually do that. So I mean, and I've had some where, I mean, recently, this is going to sound silly, but there's people that'll email me to say that somebody on Amazon or somebody on Temu or some other place, they're selling my art and you need to shut it down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like you were
telling me about that. They're like on Amazon.
Yeah. Okay? But someone's
copying your stuff.
But for someone to see it and then say like, you know what, I'm going to send this random person, this artist, an email because I feel like he's getting ripped off. And you think like, you didn't have to do that. Like that makes me feel like, oh my gosh, there are good people out there that are, making sure, looking out for you. But I mean, I didn't realize that you had a podcast until recent. Like it's got to be what, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yeah, 2-3 months.
But as soon as you told me and I started listening to it, I was hooked because some of these people, of course, I had to listen to the ones,
Brandon first. Yeah.
Wade,
yeah.
I mean those, and then I was hooked. It was just like, oh my gosh, and you do such a great job with interviewing.
Thank you.
I mean, I feel like this is going to be I won't be able to listen to this episode, but this will be one that
I listen to every
over.
single episode that I release. So I learn so much during and after.
Ooh.
And it's phenomenal to hear every single person's story. It's phenomenal to hear about your story. And that's just, I derive so much purpose from just conversation. Cause it's like it's an art, being able to, the eye contact, the making sure the pauses and making sure that the posture is right, or the tone of the voice, the word choice. It's like, I could take this direction. I could take that direction.
Yeah.
Well, Well,
I know you talk about like, podcasts like Joe Rogan, and I listen to Joe Rogan sometimes, and Mark Maron, Conan Needs a Friend. I listen to some podcasts where it's like, I may not listen to everyone, but there'll be somebody, like there'll be a psychologist, like something I don't know much about, but I'm interested, and you'll turn it on and it's like I'm like eavesdropping on the conversation, and I just love that because it's like I'm just listening, and I'm like, oh, I'm learning something.
Yeah, no, at work I'm probably consuming around 4 hours of podcast.
I'm not that much. I think I still I can't. I notice I can't listen to. It's difficult for me to listen to music at work, but the podcast, like just having one earbud in and listening to something that's interesting. It's fun. It's good.
Turning a silly hobby into a side hustle.
Yeah.
What inspired you to transform your hobby into a side hustle, and what were the initial steps you took?
All right. So I was working as an animator in Calgary, and I don't even know the year, but it was probably 2011. And I overheard during a lunch break that our art director was looking for someone to split a booth with at a comic convention. So he had set up something, someone dropped out, and now he's in a pinch, and he was just asking like people in the lunchroom, like, hey, is anybody interested in doing like selling artwork at this comic convention? And I had never been to a comic convention or sold art, but there was just something where I thought like, I mean, because I mentioned that I had a blog that was filled with silly daily doodles. I was drawing a lot at my desk, and I thought, man, that sounds fun. Like I don't know. And it was, I think at the time, to split a booth at the comic convention was probably like $150. And I thought, oh, I've got $150. Let's do this. So I said yes. And he told me to, put a couple prints together, and I just went ahead and did it, and went to a show, and it was all a blur. Like that whole getting there, I was nervous. I was sweating so bad just because I was excited, terrified. And I don't remember the person who bought the first one, but after I sold the first one, I was like this thing in my brain just opened up and it just started filling with ideas that were just like, oh my God. It's like another door opened up and it was just like, we're walking through this.
Phenomenal. I mean, there's an opportunity that comes, and
yeah,
it's that initial step where, oh, this is exciting. And,
yeah.
oh, this is something that I've always wanted to do. And it's just never come up. But then it finally happens and the door opens and you see into the room and you go, whoa, this is a room that I want to be a part of.
Exactly. Like it was almost like I learned a new language and suddenly I'm like, holy crap, I can talk to these people.
And then you look back and you go, was I me before that happened? Like, was this real life before? Or is this
on the way, I can
surreal.
tell you, like on the way on that weekend was just, I got some positive feedback like that, but turning it into the side hustle was basically just building on that from that moment. It was just building on that. So now it's just, it's that journey from selling prints and still keeping a full-time job. But I think I've tried to be at another show. Like I've noticed that it's been like someone describe it like it's trampolines. Like I don't necessarily draw every day at home, but if a show is coming up, I start like, I can use that energy to get to the next show. And then I use that momentum to just keep going. And when COVID hit, like the year, but like just before COVID hit, I was at work and I had promised myself that in 2017, I was like, once this side hustle makes more than my regular job, I'll leave the job. And I thought like it was trying to give myself like this. I was trying to give myself like Jeff, you're just keep going in this direction. And then when you reach that point, we'll do this. And when it happened, it was 2019. My son was just about to start kindergarten. So I was like, hey, this is perfect. I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad. I'm going to do art and shows, drop the son off, pick the son up, and it'll just be perfect.
But there's probably a lot of pressure though, because you've got a family now, right? And it's like you need to put food on the table. Sure, you want to pursue your passion, but you also want to be a good father, a husband that can provide. Yeah, and my wife was working at a photography studio, getting me prints for less. Like I didn't have to pay for prints because they had lots of. They had lots of paper and big giant machines that were the size of a garage. And I thought, so she would get me prints. But anyways, I made this decision. It was like my wife and I decided that it was going to work. Like I think from the growth from that first show till 2019, it was always just going up. So I knew I was comfortable with like, this is it. This is going to give me the time. Like work won't take this like work was taking up time that I could be focusing on art. So I thought I'm going to flip this. Work is going to go, bye-bye. And then I'm just going to, do full-time art. And then isn't it so frustrating when you're at the job that not the artwork side, but when you're at your other job and you're there and you have all these thoughts that you could put into your side hustle, but you can't because you're at work and you need money. But at the same time, you can put some more time into your artwork that can gain more revenue. But at the same time, it's the stability side. This is the work that you have there. That's not your art is stable. It's guaranteed. But then the work for your art, it's a lot more risk, but it's unstable, but you're passionate about it. And it's like, where do I draw the line? What's optimal?
Yeah. Well, because work, I noticed as soon as I left work, like in July in 2019, all of us, like it was kind of hard. Like I did ride that high for a little bit. Like, this is incredible. I had on my phone, I had a list of projects that I wanted to accomplish for the business. But then, when you're relying on that, like you said, I'm relying on that income. All of a sudden I was almost taking fewer chances. Like it was kind of like, well, do I do the painting of a vagina in a wheelchair or what's going to sell? Like it was it was almost this double-edged sword that it was kind of like, oh, I got all this time, I can make stuff. But then I'm like, well, where do I put my time now? Because now we can't have a couple flops in a row.
Like
So
what I want to be novel because I have all these ideas.
yeah,
But I also need to sell because I need to put food on the table because this is my full-time job now. So it's finding the line of being more creative and repeating what works. But then you also have that question of, okay, maybe it worked before. Is it still going to work now? And it's like, am I constantly innovating and you're looking at other work from other people and it's like, okay, why would they buy mine? And so you need to be able to be special.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And I felt like I had it. But in 2020, when COVID hit in March, I was at a tattoo convention in Winnipeg. And all of a sudden people were saying like, I don't know if this show's going to happen next month. And I thought like, well, what? You know, I've made, you know, I'd already had like a bit of a nest egg from the last couple of shows and thought, we're going to see. Like, you know, people went, and at a tattoo convention, there's people from all over the world, but everybody was saying that this is it's going to be shut down. And I thought, okay, well, I'll have some free time. You know, I'm not working, so I'll be okay. And so, you know, I continue to work, things shut down. I started to have to, you know, ask for some of the money that I'd already put down for other shows. Like other shows were saying like, hey, would you like to roll this money that you paid for, you know, this $800 for a booth, you know, in September? And I thought like, I don't know, I'm going to ask for it back. Anyway, so I rolled it back. And then as, you know, as money started to like kind of run out and people weren't buying stuff online, I basically had to ask to come back to work. So I had 9 months of just pure bliss. And then I had quite a bit of time of just kind of, you know, taking a step back and saying like, what's best for my family? Because things weren't opening up and there were shows that were opening. But even in my heart, I was kind of knew that it's like, it's wrong for me to like put other people's lives in jeopardy. If COVID's as bad as they say, I don't want to take any chances. So I wrote my old boss and we basically went back to work. And I think there was a sigh of relief there. And I did take time during that time, I started to put stuff on Etsy and try to really kind of work on that. And then ever since like maybe 2022, like 2021, it's been slowly building online. And now before online was maybe like 1% of my sales. Now it's 99% of the sales. And
do you think you'll be able to go back to full-time art, bathroom work?
I don't,
soon.
I think like right now, it is like our sole income. It does well, but I mean, honestly, I know before I left work, my boss, I think, Bart, he tried to tell me, he was like, you could work part-time. And I was like, Bart, I want this to be a full-time thing. And I think he was trying to tell me like, hey, listen, you've got a place here. Like you could just take it easy. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And maybe part-time was the best. Like now that it's part-time, I feel like I've got this structure of like, I've got 4 days of just wild craziness that I can do whatever I want. And if sales are slow, at least I've got the mortgages paid for or, stuff like that. But
you need that safety net.
You do. And I think even just I kind of like that structure of like, I've got a job that I'm good at, like that at work, like where you're kind of like, Jeff shows up 6 to 2:30. I'm good at it. I get some praise. You do get a little bit of praise. I work a little hard.
You're very liked at work.
I kind of get to complain about stuff. Like I'm just like, why is the boss riding us so hard today? That kind of where you just get to feel like
so hot today.
I feel like I'm a really good employee, but I'm a terrible boss. So I feel like there's a good balance of like, crazy bathroom art Jeff is that business is, I'm okay with that. But I like having that balance of just being, you got to work and then you get to play a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do think coming back to work was important. Will I ever leave? I don't know. Are you, when you, I think I told you that if if you leave your podcast to do it full time, I will leave work and do full time. Like when you do it, you can call me and say, Jeff, it's time. We're doing this full time.
Let's do it.
I'm going to get that on. If you do leave it full time.
Sure.
That's when Jeff's handing in his notice.
Let's do it. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see kind of where you're headed, because this is still kind of the advent of your business. You're still pretty young.
I'm 44.
Yeah.
And I didn't start until I was 30. I didn't really start 2011. Yeah.
Thriving businesses are decades, like ones that are just making millions, that are self-sustaining.
Yeah.
And you hear all their stories and their come up, and there's multiple stories in the setbacks, like COVID, the 2008 financial crash.
Yeah, that just
in worst case scenario, it takes you out, but it never did. You still kept going.
I was working at EA Sports when the market did take a crash. And at EA Sports, I was on NBA Live, and one day, like 1,600 people were gone. The building was just like empty. And I remember having to go to a motion capture. Like I was going to some meeting, and I had to walk through a building that was completely empty, that was filled with artists like a day or two before. And I remember thinking like, man, that could be me one day if I stay here. And so I
started your own.
I kind of got lucky, but I don't know. I don't
believe in luck. That's something that I don't. Sure, it's a big player, and in some cases,
we do take chances. I do believe that with what is that? Great risk comes great reward or something. It doesn't have to be a great reward, but I will take some risks with my career. Yeah. I mean, even the things that I draw, like, and the shows that I go to, I don't know. Like I'm willing to, you
make those sacrifices.
You make a sacrifice.
Yeah, it's worth it.
It's worked. It's worked for me.
What challenges did you face in the early stages of turning your hobby into a business, and how did you overcome them?
I think, well, one of the biggest ones, when my son was born, my wife had to go on maternity leave. So what I mentioned with the prints that I was getting for basically nothing, and it was helping with sales, I think I suddenly had to figure out, like, what the heck? Like, is this business going to fall apart? Is this house of cards just going to come tumbling down?
Because your wife's not there anymore for the print. So what exactly are the role of these prints? Like, just to photocopy them?
So I would paint stuff. She would get photocopies, and then they were great prints. Like so when you went to a professional place to say, like, listen, I would like to get, at the time there were a couple prints that were doing really well. So I knew that if I had a show coming up, maybe I'll sell 50 of them, of certain ones. So I went to a shop to say, hey, I need 50 of these prints. And they'd be like, well, if these are certain prints, it's going to cost like, $300, $400. And I thought, well, then I need, like, I'm not just selling one. I'm going to have to sell, like, I'm going to have to spend, I think one quote was like $4,000 or $5,000 for prints. And then those prints are sitting in a cardboard box in my basement or somewhere. And I thought, like, well, what if something happens? Like, what if I spill something on them, or they get damaged? So, or if they get damaged while I'm traveling somewhere. So I brought this up at a show, and some random customer who ended up being like I think he was a photographer. He mentioned that I should get this printer that he recommended. Like, he recommended a printer, and he, once again, this is like some guy that just ended up writing me after the show and saying, listen, you get this printer, it'll pay for itself. Like, I think he could tell I was selling a lot, but he was like, and I think the printer was $2,200. And so at the time it was like, wow, I spend $5,000 at a print shop, or I spend half that on a printer, and I just make my own, the business is, I can make these prints at night. And so that alone saved me so much money that it's just, I should dig up the email and just send him the nicest email because it gives you so much, it gives you freedom. Like if I were to go, I guess what scared me the most was that what if I had come up with something new and I order 50 prints and then that one doesn't do well. I think that's what scared me the most was that you can have stinkers like and so I was terrified at that I was going to spend this money. And so this recommendation just allowed me to have the freedom of just and make more money. But that was a huge hurdle that was answered by an angel. I swear.
It's crazy how one suggestion from a person, like that little idea,
yeah,
right, just like changes the trajectory of your entire life. It seems.
Yeah, that like I tell that one when people ask me where you get prints done now, I always say like if you're starting a show, if you're an artist, like if you're taking that leap to start going to shows, it's like buy that printer, just buy a printer. I mean, things have changed over the years now.
What is it called?
Oh, it was at the time it was like an Epson 3880.
Okay, and what do you use now?
What is it? What
do you use now?
An Epson P900, which is still just like a nice desktop printer, but it does a good job. It's a workhorse. And I think if I were to get those prints made somewhere, it just eat up all my money. It's just because I'm already paying for, I usually like to bag them and put cardboard in them so that they can get home safe. But if I got crappy paper, I don't know. It's just,
yeah. Is it okay if we take a little break?
Oh my gosh, of course we can take a break. No, is there any questions you have? Like, are there anything where you're like, hey, calm the F down? Like, just,
Alan,
okay.
This is your episode.
I was surprised when you started, there were things where you started, like, you would drop a swear word. And I was like, oh my God, what if I have to swear or something? But then I was like, I don't have to.
I try not to swear, but I when it's around, typically when I get passionate about something, I just drop it. That's the only word I can describe it with. I won't just say it to say it.
I think you need to have like a little animated thing in the bottom when you drop that F-bomb. It's just like,
and especially the previous episode with the gym guys, I just swore all the time because that's just the culture. But I've been trying. I used to be really bad back a couple years back. F this, S this.
Yeah.
But it takes away from your lexicon, from your vocabulary.
I also noticed, like, since I had I guess it's having a son. I'm sure, like, having a younger brother, like, I try not to swear at all. Like, I do like an oh gosh or a golly or geez.
Oh, that's something I avoid though. I never say that.
Yeah, like you do. Like, I just try to I try to use just safe words that, although his mom can drop some. Yeah, he gets it from her.
How do you balance your main career with your side hustle, and what advice would you give to others looking to do the same?
I mean, I think I would just say take it slow. I mean, I started out with just those 4 prints, like 4 different, but and having low expectations, like just enjoy it. Like, find something that if you enjoy it, and if it doesn't matter if it's like cookies or you got like jellies, like, just start slow, find a recipe that works, and then just slowly build on that. Because I was fortunate that I after shows, if someone couldn't buy something, I had to ship it from my house. So there was a point where I was like, I really had to figure out, like, oh man, I got this cardboard in this bag. I need to get envelopes. And then I had envelopes. So when people placed orders, I had it. I wasn't like scrambling. Like it slowly built so that I was always kind of like not a step ahead, but I was trying to keep up with like the way it was progressing. And so, I mean, I think starting slowly would be my best advice.
That's phenomenal advice. And a lot of people get inspired.
Yeah.
And they on the inception of any project, they are already thinking of the results when that is only 1% of it. When you see somebody on the podium as a successful actor, when you see someone cross the finish line, when you see someone be successful with their artwork, with their business, you don't see the 99% of setbacks of okay, which printer should I use? Okay, I'm running out of art ideas. Which day should I book off for that art show? I need to talk to my boss about that. Okay, what's my family gonna think? What do I think about this? Am I gonna do bathroom art still? There's all these ideas, hey, and you had said take it slow, and I think a lot of people rush, and then they burn themselves out, and then they lose that passion, and they don't stick with it. Yeah. You have been in it for
I think since 2011, so it's like 13 years.
And we're not. Time.
I mean, to not count COVID just seems silly because I feel like I think I had 8. I think from that show in March till like the first one back was like 830 days, and I had some dark days, but I'll still count those as I was still running the business. But I think, that starts slow. And then of course I've usually always take some money and put it aside so that if there's something that I want to grow, like if it was that printer, like sales from one show went to that printer, and then it is, and then, recently we bought a 3D printer. So hopefully I'm turning characters into actual like models to sell.
Ooh, so that's a great idea. Like it's kind of like little action figures type of art.
Yeah, like something like statues or like things. People buy. I'm not.
That'd be dope.
It's one of those things where it's like I can see it happening. Where I'm like, I'm like, people know. I can turn art. Like it's the nice thing is that they're my images. Like I think I've tried to keep everything as original as I can. Like any ideas, usually it's my idea. Like I never liked going to a show and seeing someone sell like paintings of Superman, and you're like, I know what comic that's from. Like that's from this issue. Like you're totally just painting that, you're copying it, and you're making money. I feel like everybody's got you've got ideas. Like use your own ideas.
Yeah.
And so
everybody's got that in them. Eh? If you just sit long enough, that original idea is gonna come.
It will come, and maybe it will. Yeah, but I know that I can legally turn these characters into objects, and maybe they sell, or maybe I just get to enjoy them. But it's just, and of course it's my son's involved, so we're learning along the way of how to do this. But I think it's like that's a slow. I'm just growing it slowly. Maybe I try to set some dates. I love having a show that's coming. Like the Fringe is coming up in 2 weeks. I know that I need something. I need new stuff for the Fringe. And
what is the Fringe?
Pardon?
What is that? Is that
the Fringe?
Event?
It's like the Fringe Festival is like 11 days. It's like theaters, like or like plays that people put on. There's some street performers, but I have a booth, and I've had it for it's my 6th year. But the sales are incredible. Like it's one of those things that I took a chance. It's paid off, but every year, you have ideas of what you want to do for the next year. And then all of a sudden you're 2 weeks away and you think like, is this all going to come together? Like, but I do like that. It's kind of like work for me with the full-time job or the part-time job. Monday, Sunday night, I know I have Monday off. I get orders out, but I know that I've got to finish stuff to go back to work. And it kind of motivates me a bit. Like I'm telling you, when you're off, when I was a full-time artist, it's like days started blending together. Like you're just like, what day is it? Like I remember asking someone like, what is it, Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is.
That's how you can tell you're passionate.
You just lost your time. Like, wow.
Because it all just blends into one big,
right?
Because the average week for the working class, for many people, it's okay, Monday to Friday, focus on work. And then there's the Saturday and Sunday. But
It's not
for me,
enough days.
I could never do that forever. I want to be able to constantly build something, because sure, we both work for the company that we do, but we're building someone else's idea.
I know.
And I appreciate every single person that we work with.
Yes, of
and
course.
It's great. The interactions, they're beautiful to me and they're meaningful.
Yeah.
And I try to be as hospitable and genuine and compassionate.
Yeah.
But it's just, I feel when I'm at work, my mind goes somewhere else.
It does.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I'm lucky we have a phone. I can always like write down ideas, and I love that I'm still there, and I can be on a forklift, and then I can have an idea and I can write it down and be like, Jeff,
write that down.
Write that down. Yeah. But safely. I do stop the forklift.
You get a 3,000 pound load. And it's just, oh wait, is that even allowed? No, like a 500 load. And then
I don't know what it's rated for.
Write it down. Sorry, I gotta write this down.
Everybody stop, please. But I do notice that I think it's hard to be around people. Like not everybody has, I know some people get upset if I mention either at work or at another with a friend that may not have ideas for something that they want to pursue. Like if they go to work, they come home, they spend the money they made. And, I'm always thinking about, whoa, what I got to use that money to build, or there's a piece of wood at work. Oh man, they're going to throw that out. I'm going to take it home and paint on it. Like I
feel a lot of people who really detest working that 9 to 5 ultimately just want a creative lifestyle. But I do know people that are completely okay with the 9 to 5, that they just want to be able to provide for their family. Or if they're single, they just want to be able to sleep and party on a Friday, meet their friends, and they're okay with that.
That's healthy too.
But
that's healthy.
For many, I know so many where they don't want to do that. They want to be able to have their own free time. And what does that mean? Like a question keeps getting asked. I'm sure everyone is there. What would you do if money wasn't an option? And you have all these different ideas. Oh, I would do this. I would finally pursue that. You can do that right now.
Yeah.
It's just, if you're unhappy with where you're at, you have to work towards changing that, or else it's never going to happen. Nothing that business, that art skills, it's not just going to fall from the sky.
No, I know. And I think I would, of course, I think of it like if you did, I would probably go, if you had money wasn't an object, like if money was nothing, I'd probably go back to school, go to different art schools. Like I don't know if I could sit on a beach.
I'd probably just podcast all day, every day. I'd probably just run
space.
podcasts. Yeah, from space. I'd podcast. I'd probably develop an addiction. I already kind of do.
It's
addicting. Hey, when you get that artwork, right? When you create something, it's like, I want to get that feeling again.
I what the most I find that when a show is over, I do like, I don't know if I'm like, I don't get depressed, but I notice that high of like selling and even like creating. There's that day after where it's like either the show's over or you look at that piece that you loved from the night before and you're like, who the heck drew this? Like some crazy man? Like it almost, even like the stuff that I said, if I write something down at work that it's a good idea and you're like, oh man, this is gold. And then you look at that same sentence the next day and you're like, these are ramblings of a madman. And you just think that. So I mean,
have you ever read the book Dopamination?
Oh no, I've heard about it and I've heard you talk about it. That's
I think it makes sense. You're building towards the artwork.
Yeah.
And you have all the feelings of, okay, am I good enough for this? And then, am I gonna produce enough? There are all these things that could go wrong. It finally goes and you end up exceeding your expectations. You're in euphoria. But then after that, it's all done. And then you wake up the next day and it's like, oh gosh, I need to get that feeling again. And you hit a deep trough because you want that again. And it's kind of the same cycle. And that's like that with all things. Like I get that with podcasting where before it's like, oh wow, I'm so excited. I'm stressed. I'm excited. I'm tired. I don't know what I'm feeling. But then during it, I'm ecstatic. I'm talking about it. And then I hit my peak when I finally am done editing and I release it. And then there's a big trough. Now, how do I get that again? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
but that's the problem with the creativity. And I feel a lot of artists,
Yeah.
a lot of people who produce something in the world have that. And that's why we keep coming back to it.
Yeah. And I read something months ago that they talked about mental masturbation, which is something where it's like, you almost like, I can almost spend more time just coming up with ideas. And that is a problem because I have lists on a phone of of things that are just ideas. They don't have to happen. But when I think of them, it's just like,
Me too.
Oh man, this is such a good idea. And then I have to almost separate, like I have to start new folders, but I always feel like I'm storing them because that, like it almost seems like that idea, I love it, but I just can't see it perfectly. But I've got a chunk of it. And so, but then I feel like I do kind of suffer from that. You start writing the ideas and I can ride that high and I've come up with 20 in a row. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, that was awesome.
But to actually you got an idea, but then that idea could mean 10 hours of work. That other idea is 20 hours of work. I have some ideas. Even when I was driving to home from work, I had this idea of running a marathon blindfolded. But then it's like the training to that, the do that, the logistics, is it even safe? The risks. It's like, then you get that, like you're driving and you get that idea. It's like a big hit of dopamine. You feel great, but then, okay, that idea is not good. But then when you actually find an idea that is not impossible, realistic, that is actually within your realm of capabilities, then it's, okay, let's go.
Like that is, I mean, that is, it could be, sometimes it feels like a curse that you're constantly thinking of, you're thinking of ideas.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. My notes has probably 1,000 hours worth of ideas, probably more, where if there were more copies of me, I could do all of them, but it's just, you got to choose the one that speaks out to you.
And I think that's what those lists are. I'm coming up with, 1,000 ideas, and then maybe maybe we whittle it down to 100, and then, you get 10, and then down to that one that works. And it was like, hey, that's how the process for me. It's almost like I'm writing jokes. I'm not a comedian, but I feel like I'm writing jokes, and then I need to see them a couple more times. And then I draw them 100 times and
present them to the audience.
The what?
Present them to others.
Yeah, like and that's kind of what the shows, the markets are like. You're putting these jokes out, and the ones that kill are the ones that people like. And selling funny art, it helps as soon as people laugh. And I think going back to like the bathroom art that I should mention, when people know where that art is going, like if you've ever picked up like, a couch, where the couch is going, that, the certain things are going in the house when you're looking for something. And I think what's always helped sell the bathroom art is that people, they can see it, like they know where it's going in the house. And that always has that's always, people are like, oh, it's bathroom art. Like when you hear people say it's bathroom art for the bathroom, it's like they know where it's going, and it just
that makes sense, because a lot of art. Am I going to put this in my bedroom?
Yeah, where am I
going to
this?
put this in the living room?
Like it's
when my visitors walk in. Is it going to be right in front of their face?
Yeah,
but then bathroom art, it's going
just
in the
suddenly
it's going in the bathroom.
It goes up, and you know what? And the nice thing is that it doesn't have you don't have a lot of space in the bathroom. I mean, most people don't. But anyways, that's.
It's simple. Simplicity is a great quality, because it just leaves you with less options. Because I feel like in this day and age, there's just so many options. We get bombarded and we get discombobulated.
Yes. Yeah. Even you can.
But being your biggest cheerleader, what motivates you to be such a strong supporter and cheerleader for others, and particularly for yourself?
Well, I think like we were saying about any idea you have, I think you're that you're cheering yourself on, like that buzz, that feeling you get when you're like, oh man, like that's I'm gonna do that. Like I'm gonna go for that run. I'm gonna go do this. Like you are cheering yourself on. And I think everybody kind of needs that, either someone at a finish line or people cheering from the sidelines, so that you can kind of look and be like, oh yeah, this is I'm on this journey, or I'm in this race. And I think it's important. I know I know that I mentioned to you that it was like the podcast was great, and I mean that. And then
Thank you.
I say that to another artist, like I might be somewhere at an art walk and I'll see something and be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like what the heck? That's incredible. And you have to tell people, but I mean, I get that through reviews online or sales, but I mean, even if you don't have a cheerleader or someone in your life, like my parents don't really agree with this choice of, this path, even though they are supportive, even if they don't agree with it, but they still support me. But I think even if they weren't there, when I'm out in the world, I meet other artists or other creative people that, cheer me on. And then I like that, like if you go run a race, you'll meet other runners that are going to be like, hey, great job today. I'll see you at the next race, or they'll tell you about a race. Like I know you're promoting you promote another race, and you're trying to bring these people together so that you're not running by yourself. And, and I feel like that's important. I don't know where we'd be if we didn't have cheerleaders. But I mean, they don't need to have pom-poms and tiny skirts.
Well, a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Yeah,
and the more we add on, the more boats we have, the tide is going to rise. And the more effort that we put into rising to lift that tide up, there's no shortage of success.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And if there aren't people around, you yourself need to be able to psych yourself up, right? Because at the end of the day, there could be 10 people supporting you, and you could be the most talented person ever, and you produce the most effort and produce the best artwork in the world. But if you shit on yourself, if you aren't content, if you're not the type of person to be able to be satisfied, if you're always chasing this idea of perfection, it's just all futile, because you're not living a satisfying life. So you need to be able to take a step back and go and give yourself a little bit of that grace and go, I am capable. I am doing the best that I can. And sure, things aren't perfect, but that's life. And I guess supporting others too, because you know what it's like to be in that endeavor of reaching this goal. You know what it's like to have shame, to have doubt, to have guilt, to have all these negative, the soup of negativity. Yeah. So when another person supports you and you support that other person, it makes the tension less profound, and it makes the chances for success is proliferated. Does that make sense?
Well, and I know I noticed. I don't think I did it enough growing up. Like it was rare for me to ever praise someone, mostly because of like jealousy. Like you'd be like, God, I hate that person. Like we all feel that. That's just human nature. But I think raising a child, and you're just like, hey, good job. Like you did that. Like I remember my son showing me how he zipped up his coat by himself. Like I could start crying from the thought of my son zipping up his own coat. But that was just like those moments, like cheerleading, like some like kids on it almost makes it easier to do, just to like put it out there for other people. Like I just like suddenly I'm praising other kids at school. That also establishes and internalizes your son's mental capacity to be able to appreciate the triumphs. Because when there's someone like his father,
you're probably one of the biggest influences, you and your wife, on your son.
Mm-hmm.
So when he sees that he's zipping up his jacket, what does that tell him? That tells him, okay, I learned this thing. I need to be able to celebrate. That's just, I know a lot of parents and a lot of my friends, their parents never did that for them. So they have trouble kind of celebrating those small wins. Like they're like, why are we celebrating? We just made like, but then for like, I struggle with that. When I was growing up, my mom didn't really celebrate my small wins. Like, that's not really that big of a deal. And so I struggle with that. And so I'm still trying to sharpen that tool of being able to rejoice and be joyous when it comes to those wins.
Yeah, I have to tell you, there's a story I have of like when I got a paper route when I was young, and I had it for like 6 years, and I was able to run.
Loyalty.
That's loyalty.
6
I was
years.
Good. But anyways, I was like, I won, like I was in a play years ago, like maybe I was 19 years old, and this girl that I liked. So we signed up. This is a running story. Like we signed up for a half marathon, and I remember like I told my parents that I was like, this is big, half marathon. I know you like running stories, but this is like, so the day of the race, my parents were like, they didn't come, and I was like, oh, maybe they'll be at the finish line. And I remember like this story. I still think of this story when I get upset sometimes, but it's I remember like doing the half marathon, finishing it 1 hour and 47 minutes. And I remember
that's pretty good.
Nobody was at the finish line. Nobody was there to say like, holy shit, Jeff just fucking run a half marathon. And I remember thinking like, I don't think, and when I told you that I don't really run much anymore, it's mostly because of that, because this huge thing that was like pretty big for me.
It was like immense, man, in 1 hour and 47 minutes.
But I still think that I'm like, even though I went on that day, I think I had to like be at a play same day. I remember like running, bumping into the person that was supposed to run with me and being like, hey, where were you? I was like, I didn't turn around to look for you, but I finished it. And she said like, oh, I didn't do it. I slept in. But I remember now looking back, like I usually blame like a knee injury that it's like, oh, I don't run anymore because of my knee or something. But I still look back and think like there was a time when I just didn't get that cheer where it's like, oh my gosh, you finished it. And it's sad that I gave up on running, but I mean, I still run once in a while, but I think that was I could have used a cheerleader at the end of that run.
That reminds me of my elementary, middle school, high school, the progression. Because within elementary, my dad had cheered me on with every single 90% that I got, every single test mark, and I put my effort into it. And I just wanted to make him happy. That's all I wanted. And he kept telling me quotes, really cheesy ones, like if they can do it, you can do it too. Knowledge is power. Just like all this effort-based kind of quotes, and I internalized that. But as soon as our relationship kind of took a turn and I started lashing out, and because I didn't get that appreciation from the test marks that I got, I started just not studying at all. When again I got 50s and 60s. We're all good now. I love my father. We went through a rough patch, but had I just gotten a good job and like a hug, that's all I wanted. But just he got busy with work, and I was growing up, so I was really insecure about the girls. Or if nobody was there for my marathon finish line, I don't think I'd be running ultras right now. I don't think I'd be where I am. I raised $1,200 for charity. I know. Around 125.
I thought about that. Like, just like, I know the next time you do it, you have to have like a tracker on you so that we can somehow figure out where you are, just to cheer you on. Because I saw the loop that you did, I was like, oh my God, he went everywhere. You should just do the Henday, just so that we can like just drive the Henday and see you and be like,
thank you so much for sharing that half marathon. Sorry, but kudos to you, man. That's like an hour and 47. That's no easy feat.
I loved running. Like there was that.
Hey, it's not too late.
What?
It's not too late. Let's go. After this, smoky outside.
I could do. I think I stand by this, that it doesn't matter what shape I'm in. I can always do a 5K. I can do a 5K. It's like when I can't, if I put runners on and I can't do a 5K, then it's like I just, I got to give up.
Can you share a moments when your encouragement helped someone achieve their goals or overcome a challenge?
Yeah, I have a buddy named Kyle, and we bumped into each other at a local market in the city called the Royal Bison, which was kind of a snooty. I mean, it was kind of a weird. It was a nice market. I think, I don't know how many years they went on for. It was quite a few, but it was a nice show, and a lot of people there had like not high end stuff, but they were either good artists, good, like they everything looked great. But I snuck in there, and one year Kyle comes up to me, and we like two weirdos that when you find a weirdo and you're a weirdo, you're like, oh man, let's talk.
I vibe with this guy.
Yeah, I vibed. But so anyways, I mentioned we would go out and draw, and I mentioned that I had signed up for this fringe festival, which at the time was like $1,750 to like do a show, which at the time was like, that man, that's a lot of money. Like, you really have to, like, you're taking a leap because you don't know what's going to happen. And then when you're thinking about a family and you're like, oh my gosh, that's like a mortgage payment, but I'm going to roll the dice and just see where this takes me. But I told him that I'll tell him if it works out, if the people are there, and he should apply. So it worked out. It was a great show. And I mentioned to him that I'm like, you got to sign up. Like, the people are incredible. We get lots of time to sell stuff. Sign up and you'll do well. And so he did it. And now he kills it. Like, if I told you, like, I don't want to give up numbers, but I'm like, he does so well that it's just like, I'm proud of him. And then I hate him, but because you're dealing with an artist that's selling like not similar stuff, but you're just like, oh man, if those people weren't there, maybe I'd get a little bit of that money. But and of course, every year you do it, people that come back are like, hey, I bought that last year, I'm not going to buy it. But I'm so proud of him, and I'm proud of myself for telling him to do it. But I mean, because that raised the bar for him. And then I think he went on to do other shows and start to think about, other ways of growing the business. Like an art business, no one needs the art we make, but it's so beautiful when you see somebody, because like, honestly, stepping into a booth, like stepping inside like my booth that I set up, you are stepping into my brain and the way I think and the way I, what I enjoy. It's
intimate.
It's kind of scary. So, we're putting our stuff out there, our jam and jellies, and you're kind of hoping that people like it. So, I'm proud of him for doing it. And yeah, we're good art friends. I don't usually talk to any other artists about what they make or how they make it, but other than just, saying nice things. But it's, yeah, I think that was one time I did that. And
the support system, right? And I think we're always just going to have a little bit of that jealousy. That's just human nature. And we always just have to fight against that.
I know.
Okay. We because there are friends of mine that are doing much better in life. And it's painful if it's the same if it's the same endeavor that you're both trying to strive towards.
Yeah, it is.
You love them. You want them to do phenomenal, but at the same time, you feel that they may be too far up for you to reach, and maybe they'll leave you behind. Because that's kind of that. That's why it's not that I'm jealous per se. Maybe I think that's that little hint of that, but it's more that with running.
Yeah.
Like, let's say I'm I'm running, I get in someone into running, and then they end up being a better runner than me, and that has happened.
Are you
And
trying to
it's
tell me?
kind of
Is this
they leave
a
me
story
behind.
about me now? Am I going to run again? You're going to get me back.
I think that's what it is. I think
that's
this is your calling. Jeff Dekker, #1 Canada runner. But I think that's what it is, right? And kudos to you for helping your friend and you guys kind of that support system. But
Yeah.
it's just like, I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't think you're the type of person, but it's just kind of the output. There's just much more, and then you feel that. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, because I think it is. Yeah, like I'm terrible. Like I'm terrible with like not maybe a little jealousy because I do love. I mean, I want everyone to succeed, but then at a show, this is like
It's competitive.
It's competitive. Like when somebody's like, it is like, yeah, it's very competitive, and I love that. That's part of the wild like
It's part
thing
of that
about it. It's just
drive, man.
so and for us to still kind of remain friends, even when he does a little better, you're just like, like last weekend we were side by side, so I got to hear his sales, he got to hear my sales, and I mean it's
that's where you.
It's a little competitive.
It's how you keep in the game, and that's how you keep that edge. Just to have someone who's in the same realm but is doing better, and you just
And I ask him questions. Like I know he talks about doing t-shirts, and I'm like, man, I'm not doing t-shirts.
Yeah,
but it's
constantly evolving though. What do you believe is the importance of having a cheerleader in one's life, and how can others cultivate this support system?
Well, I don't know. I guess I kind of answered that a bit, but I mean, I feel like I think it's important to have the like cultivating it. I guess I don't know.
You mentioned the stories that earlier. You mentioned the lady, the son, and you mentioned the cucumber and the pickle. Can you delve into that? I
had a lady that, like, I guess this is like these cheerleaders that kind of that I meet, but there was a lady. It's a kind of a downer story, but it is kind of like a woman came up to me at a show, and she had mentioned that her sister had passed away, and she said the only thing she kept from her sister's house was this print that I had, and it was, she laughs at it now in her house, but it's this thing where it's like, it's the memory of her sister laughing at this picture that I did. And it's,
you created that. You had a role in that. You had a part in that. I think that's beautiful.
I know. It was like that little bit of, her, like she helped me out. Like that moment of like somebody, supporting you. Like she could have just walked by, but she did that. And that was, I mean, that kind of stuff means a lot to us, like artists.
She took the time.
But that's, and then of course there's other stories. I think I mentioned to you that there are some people that buy the art because it means something else to them. Like there's, but yeah, when somebody says something sweet like that, or they're getting a gift for somebody else, and they believe that this, something you've created would mean a lot to someone else, that also makes me feel good.
You had told me about the alcoholics that buy your artwork. Can you delve into that?
Yeah, like I suddenly started getting like emails from people that had either bought it, and then they'd write like a little message that just said, "Oh, hey, I'm going through AA, and this is, this picture means a lot to me." And I was kind of like, geez, I thought, I didn't really
describe the painting.
So the painting,
the artwork?
Yeah, the painting I have was something I made a few years ago of like a pickle, like a grumpy pickle, like in a jar. So it doesn't really seem like much, but it was something that I okay, this is going into like the art, but this is when you do bathroom art. I kind of felt like there was something that stopped people from buying other art because I couldn't draw food because it was next to like the poop. So I almost needed to come up with a way to protect the food art from the bathroom art. I know it seems kind of strange, but it
No,
worked.
you're right. Because you don't want the food. You don't want people to be disgusted. You want people to laugh.
Yeah. So I decided to put some of the food art in jars because it was just a psychological, like it was kind of just seemed like a way to, help people or help sell stuff. But anyways, I came up with this pickle. There's also a carrot and some other vegetables, but this pickle is, people would write me and they would say, like, I would get another email about this guy. I'm 10 years sober, and this picture means a lot. And then one, I'd say thank you so much, and good luck on your, good luck,
Because previously they were the cucumber, and now that they resonate with that.
Yes,
that grumpy pickle. But it's beautiful.
So supposedly, I haven't been to AA, but somebody, when I looked it up, there was a quote or something that they use that says that, you're a pickle, you'll never become a cucumber again. Like a pickle that, you're a pickle and you can never go back to being a cucumber. And I guess that's what they see. Now, I didn't start a draw with that intention, but to have someone see that and have it almost put on the wall to boost their, to say like, hey, you're this grumpy pickle, it's okay that you're not a cucumber anymore, but to have someone see something completely different in it, and
inspiring.
But it means something to them, and it's kind of like this, like, yeah, that's it's beautiful, like that, and there's other stories that people send, and it's just like, you're like, what? I don't.
that's phenomenal.
It is. That's if I knew that, like, if you knew that you would be rewarded, like I think the podcast is the same. I don't think you really, you probably, we probably know that there's listeners, but there are people you have on, and there's things that you say that I'm at work or I'm at home listening in the car, and you say something and it's like, oh, damn, I gotta write that down, or I've got to, like, it just all for a second. It's like, you just, like, I think of something differently. And I feel like that's kind of what the art's like. I'm catching people off guard. And then, you're just trying to.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah. Well, it's.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the Long-Term Podcast.
Oh, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah.
Like,
are there any last words to any maybe aspiring artists out there who maybe they're scared to start and they have a lot of doubt? So what do you have any words of advice, encouragement?
Well, I would just say, like, just go for it. I know that, you've had other artists on and they do great stuff. I think it's any artist that, I started when I was like 30 years old, like around 30, like, with art. I
Solo started 30, but you had already been in the art industry.
I had already been there, but to sell art seemed like it seemed like another world that people would, that you could, it's like, what, people would buy this? Like, I think as you grow up thinking about galleries where you think like, oh, you have to be an artist that's brought into a gallery or something that's like, I didn't realize that you could just sell art. But anyways, the internet helps, but I think put your stuff out there and look, baby steps, but you'll find your audience. I believe that everybody, if you just think about, not everybody draws. So everybody, like, I guess it's, if I'm building a deck, I'm going to hire someone that likes building decks. So if someone needs art for their wall, they're probably going to find an artist. And if they find your art and, they love it, you're going to be selling some art. And I think it's that easy, but you have to have it out of your head and onto paper or a canvas, and before you can sell it. Like, you need to like get it out. And if it's already painted, get it out of the house and put it somewhere, because people don't show up at your house looking for art if they don't know that you have it for sale. That's all I can really
You got to bring
and support the podcast. Don't forget to support the podcast.
You got to bring that idea to life, man. There's no other way. And then not only that, you need to be able to promote yourself and take that step. And it's just difficult, but nothing worth having comes easy.
Well, and just like your podcast is unique to you. Like everybody is unique. And instead of just like thinking that you're not, I mean, guess figure out what's unique about you and then lean into it, and just because you have something, everybody's got something that no one else, someone else doesn't have. Lean into it. Mine was bathroom art, and I'm telling you, it's yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, as always, for everyone listening, watching, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Never lose hope, strengthen your faith, and keep it long term. Peace. Jeffrey Dekker, everyone. Or is it just Jeff?
Jeffrey. Jeffrey Dekker's all right. Thanks.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you so much, man. I appreciate
You're
you.
welcome.